Yes, yes, I can. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
give me a sec because I cannot hear you.
All right. Yes, hello.
Are you
You can hear
there?
me now? Yeah, I'm here. You can.
I c- I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So sorry about that mix-up on the link. I was under the impression I emailed it to you. Thank you for asking for it, and
No
you are
worries.
just in time. Uh,
Perfect. Perfect. I'm excited
Fantastic.
to be part of this chat today.
Absolutely. I love your LinkedIn messages and LinkedIn posts which you put out. It's really, really refreshing and amazing to go through. So, first of all, compliments on that.
Thank you. Thank you. I
R-
appreciate that. And I find that you never know when we need the inspiration as a pick me up to continue doing something that so many people want to do, and so few people actually are able to ever execute and do it.
Right, right, right. Absolutely, absolutely. Right. So, today's topic is all about your favorite topic, turning your writing passion into a thriving business, the
Yeah.
entrepreneur blueprint. So, I have a set of questions which I want to shoot at you. If you're ready, we can start off.
Bring it, bring it. And my only caveat is I'm on the other side of an illness. So bear with me if my responses aren't as quick as usual.
No worries, no worries, no worries. I hope you're all right. All right. So the first question I want to understand is it's connected to your journey, right? You are an
Yeah.
author yourself. So,
Yeah.
what inspired you to turn your writing passion into a business? What inspired that?
Yeah, well, so the journey goes back to the fact that many people I know grow up wanting to write a book, and that was not me. So, writing was not something I wanted to do. I mean, as a kid, I participated in what they have called here young author programs that I did with school, but I just kind of saw that as a thing to do then, not a thing to do forever. But the book bug bit me, and it bit me while I was working in a corporate position and moving up the corporate ladder. So behind the scenes, writing had become a catharsis for me and how I processed life. But I was when I was impacted by a corporate layoff, I thought, well, now's the time to do something that I've been doing as a side thing, but people were asking when was the book going to come out. And so, right before my book came out, my book coach and publisher had everyone in the team do a uh, kind of an accountability practice where we were charged to promote, share our promotion plans with others that were writing books. And so I did, and I got a phone call afterwards from both asking how I knew how to market a book. And
Right,
my first book had nothing to do with book marketing, and I thought, well, doesn't everybody know how? And they were like, nobody does. Like, this is not, it's nuanced. Many people who
right.
write books and get excited about sharing their message do so in a way that that they care about the message, but they forget about making sure the right people get it. So I share all of that because I never planned on having a business. In fact, even when my publisher was like, there are people who could use your message, I thought, great. And I don't want to do it. Like that, I'm just going to write and that's it. Like I didn't know that that's where I wanted to go. But before I knew it and before I had a business name, I had people from all parts of the world finding me and asking me for book marketing insights and asking for me to not just give them advice but to do it. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm fighting something too hard, right? Like, why am I fighting this? So I stopped and realized that this is actually all that I was exactly supposed to do, that writing was a journey for me to be able to help other people. That at the essence, I thought that only the book was the caveat to do it. And I realized that no, that there's so many people that put their heart and soul on the page, and
Right.
that people don't pick up those books and run with them because they don't know about them. And so at that point, the moment that I finally realized that there was a thread working without was the moment that I said, okay, well, I got this. And so the Empower PR group was born, and it was really born as a solution to help people who have empowering messages empower other people. And since its launch 5 years ago, I've been able to help authors not just use a book to spread a message, but realize that a book is really the first launching pad or of building a business. Every author is an entrepreneur, whether they know it or not.
Right, right, absolutely, absolutely. What a wonderful journey, right? What a wonderful start to it. You didn't want to do it, but That's why your purpose will always drive you to the right place at the right time.
And I don't know
Absolutely.
why I didn't want to do it, by the way. It wasn't because I didn't like it. I think it was because I had worked in marketing and PR and communications for so long that I thought my calling was pivoted a bit. You know, my first couple books, and I have a new book coming out next month, are really inspirational books that are meant to help people redefine success and evaluate life through a lens of perspective. That's what I thought this new charge was. And what I realized is the glue to all of it is me, and I'm allowed to have other facets. And I find so much joy helping authors find perspective as much as I enjoy helping the individual find it too.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank God that you found this passion at the right time. Right. So let's talk about the process of becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So can you walk us through the process of becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So, many people think they know what it means to be an author or how to become an author, right? But that's a journey in and of itself, right? You have to write or have someone help you write. Then you have to figure out how to turn that writing from being something that collects digital dust in your computer to something people can hold and read, and figure out the right publishing path. That in and of itself is more than I probably would have ever done if I knew how hard it was to do it. It's not that it's hard; it's just knowing the right people to help you and the right ones to trust. But before, and this is another part of my journey, before I ever wrote my book, I actually created a business to fund the journey. Unexpectedly, I found out how much, my book coach gave me some price points to say, when your book comes out, for it to be successful, there's some stuff you might want to start budgeting for. And I told my husband, even though, we probably had the money to earmark for it, I said, there's something weird about this journey that's not supposed to be something that only lives, from our budget. Like, I feel like I'm supposed to figure this out. And that year for Christmas, I made a wreath, like a door wreath for my brother-in-law's new home. I posted it on social media, and before I knew it, I had a business where I had to take sales tax and sell wreaths at the back of Walmart parking lots. Like, it turned into something I didn't expect. And within 6 months, I had all the money I needed and beyond to fund this book journey. But what I also had was an understanding of what it takes to run a business, how to pay sales tax and why you should, how to be able to take credit card transactions, like why did I need to figure that out, how to be customized, but how to not be flexible on everything, because efficiency, an important part of efficiency is knowing your stuff. So this wreath business actually turned into a foundation for when my book came out, that I realized that authors have the same stuff they need to navigate. People think, well, I'm just writing a book, I'm not creating a business, but you will be selling books. How are you going to do it? People will ask you, well, they've loved your book, what's next? Do you want to be an answer to that problem on the other side? Like, at the end of the book, if people loved it, how do you get them from the page to learn more about you? And so the authorpreneur journey, I think, is boils down to this equation that I call the authorpreneur equation, that every author has. It's just whether or not you've embraced it or not. And it's your unique value plus the unique needs of your readers can create a marketable solution. And sometimes that marketable solution is a book. Many times a book is just one of many solutions that an authorpreneur can offer. And I found, again, I very begrudgingly on all of this did I do this, right? Like I was like, went kicking and screaming like a temper tantrum toddler. I didn't know what I didn't know. And people said, well, can you help me do this? I'm like, well, you got this, you could do this, right? So all these pieces, I'm like, but I thought this. And when I took a step back, I realized that there are people who are willing to invest in more than just the amount of time and dollars for a book. They want to invest in more from you. And a book can be a trust tool that creates a relationship with readers to be able to better understand what value you bring. And then you offer a solution to make their lives easier. We live in a world with too many problems. People are searching for solutions, and authorpreneurs can be that.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. Right. So as you mentioned, knowingly or unknowingly, when you write a book, you become an entrepreneur, which is entrepreneur basically. Yeah. So according to you, what are the key steps in creating a successful author business plan?
Mm, okay, that's beautiful and a great question. There are several key steps, and as a part of a successful just book in general, I think that is a beautiful alignment with a successful business as well. So just know what I'm sharing can be applicable to both. We call it the author impact method over here, and it is how do you extend your reach? And let's be honest, whether it's extending your reach to reach more readers or extending your reach to build your business, either approach is really important, and it's a 3-step kind of process. So I live on a 25-acre farm, and so a lot of the things I think about in life are things I've been inspired by out, tilling the garden or driving the zero turn, lawnmower on turbo speeds. But this one comes in the back of the property where there's a creek, and I love to take my kids down there. And so one day I was noticing I was throwing a rock, and I was watching how the rock was falling in the creek and the ripples that were happening. And I had this realization about how we focus as people who want to make an impact on the big ripples before we ever focus on the rock. And so in the author impact method, it's focused on the rock and the biggest ripples. So when the rock for an author is really your author platform. How are people going to learn about you? And when they do, what are they going to learn? And so
Right.
what is that like as an author with your message, but also your business? So, we live in a digital world. People are going to look online. How do you show up? How are you showing up? You want to make sure that how you're showing up is in alignment with what they need and how you
Right.
can offer solutions to it. So I always say start there and get a really solid author platform. And usually that means having a beautiful and beautifully articulated website, even if it's a simple one page, something that you can
Right.
control. And then your social media platforms are beautiful friends of your website. Like, they are not the website, but they allow for extension and engagement. And then Amazon is another great place for authors. And then the biggest ripple after the rock is connection. And I think when you're building a business, you need to also make sure that the people who are connected to you know what you do, and you can become referable. How can the people who know you become a street army to help promote you without having to ask them? And a lot of that has to do with letting them know on a consistent basis the solutions you bring, which is where social media and email marketing and all that stuff come into play, because it allows the people who already know you, love you, trust you, but believe in you and want you to succeed. It lets them know how they can help that. And then
Right.
you can hop to the visibility work and do fun things that many authors want to do, like get on stages or guest on podcasts or have your own podcast or whatever. But you start out there first. You could have amazing people who want to learn about you, but they can't find you. And so I always say go for the inside out, not the outside in.
Absolutely, absolutely. Makes complete sense. Right. So another big question when you speak to people who are passionate about writing, if you speak to them about making their passion into a business, they might say, "How I'm going to balance my writing and the business side." So, what are your advice on that? How do you balance creative writing with the business side of being an author?
Mm, that's a great question, especially as I've been battling that the last couple months myself, as I've got a book coming out. I will tell you that balance. Okay, this no one wants to hear it, but balance isn't really possible. We all want it. We all look for it. We read books about it, but day-to-day balance isn't possible. I've yet to find it. If somebody finds it, like that's the secret sauce to life.
Right.
Instead, balance over time is possible. And
Right.
so today might be focused on your business, and tomorrow might be focused on your writing. So what I have done, this is something that has been huge for me, a kind of two or three pronged approach. One is I don't like to look too terribly far in advance, because part of marketing is the best part of marketing, in my opinion, is being nimble and learning how to be able to flow with the wind when an opportunity comes up that is a good fit. So I usually plan about a year out, but I don't, that whole 5-year plan, I'm like, no, because you just don't know. Like, the market changes all the time. So in December, I take a step back and look, and I start to identify my writing plan for the year. What do I want to publish this year? And then from that, I start building my business around it. So the writing still becomes the center part, but I build my business around it. My
Right.
podcast seasons align with my writing and when it's coming out, or my speaking engagements or my workshops that are part of my business align with that. That is one way to do it. Another way to do it is something I'm actually taking myself to this weekend. I do think every entrepreneur deserves time away. And once a quarter, I take myself to a hotel about 20 minutes from my home. So it's just far enough where the kids, if they yell, I don't hear. My husband rental them for the couple nights, and I do a CEO retreat, and it's just me at a hotel for a couple of days. And I found a really awesome one that has a kitchen, so I don't even have to leave if I don't want to. But I become hard to find for other people, and it becomes a solace for me to write. And now I spend a lot of that time working on my business because it's always nice to evaluate what works, what doesn't, what do you want to grow with. For some people, that's still too close to home. I found last summer for me, I one of my retreats was in the mountains where I had no internet access, and so I find if writing is important to you, you need to keep it as a basis of your business and of who you are, but you have to create parameters and set time for it. I had a client of mine once tell me, he called me one day, and of course I have lots of great friendships that come from my client work. And he said, "Stephanie, what's wrong?" And I'm like, "Nothing." Like, he goes, "Well, you're not writing." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I haven't seen any new blogs lately. There, you're not writing." He said, "And when you're not writing, I know something's wrong." And I'm like, oh, and we were dealing with something with our kids that was, troubling stuff. We had to just kind of figure out how to process. And it's proof that if your business, if you're an entrepreneur and your business is based in writing, your clients will start to expect that, and they will start to see that the writing is a part of how you help them. And it hit me. I thought, you're right. So sometimes I will take mornings, and before I give the best part of the day to somebody else, I invest in getting it out for me. Other times I go to the mountains where nobody can find me, and other times I incorporate it in my CEO retreats. But I do think that it's a balance act that is not always equally laid out. That sometimes you will
Right.
feel like you're giving more than you are giving to your writing, and that's
Fantastic.
okay. That's okay.
Yep. Absolutely. Taking time out is always good.
Yeah.
And what creative ways to get the creative time? That's fantastic,
Yeah.
actually.
Oh, I got another tip on that. Let me give you one other tip on that. I
Sure.
have found, so when you're working on your business, and if your business and your writing align, this is a poof aha moment for me. Is we know we need to promote our business and our work and what we're doing. And like I just was talking about, you want to make sure your connections always know what you're doing. And that's where social media content or blogs do come. What I love is my first book was a blog to book. I didn't mean to write a book, but people were following my blogs and wanted a book. My third book was not really a blog to book, but kinda, because when I sat down and realized I needed to do this, because I had written so many blogs, because I had kept track of all my social content, I had so much content that I could synthesize, and it made writing and publishing a book even easier. I've got another couple other books in queue because of my podcast that I do. This is content. So just know that working smarter, not harder, is not the short way. It doesn't, it
Right.
just means we are reaching people and taking our message and reaching them in ways that we might not have reached them in the other form of communication we were doing. So that also is part of your writing process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your client telling you, reaching out to you when you're not writing, that's the biggest testimony you can get
Oh my gosh, I
from
know.
anything. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about some challenges. What are some of the common challenges these entrepreneurs face, and how can, if they can overcome, how can it be done?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is we're all too close to our own stuff. And so
Okay.
because we know what we know, we think everyone knows what we know, and they don't know.
Right. Right.
And so I do say, it's whether it's getting a coach, whether it's investing in help, or whether it's finding an accountability partner or someone that really you trust. It's important as a business, as any business owner, that you can go somewhere where you can be honest. You can talk about what happens behind the scenes, the worries, the challenges, the things that you're faced with, and you can do it in a way where the person on the other side is giving you feedback because they want you to grow. They want to hinder you. So I say, we think in that process, what I've uncovered in the clients I've worked with is many times people have businesses that are just knocking on the door, but our blinders are on, like I was with my business. It's like, well, no, they know how to do that. It's like, stop it. People will invest in that. And I think that takes us to a second thing that is a struggle for authors and entrepreneurs. Many times we are not our client. And so because we're not our client, we don't realize that they will invest in something that you never would.
Right.
So I would never have thought to invest in book marketing because I know how to do it and I find joy in it. I find joy in it because I'm creative. I can do design work. I think that way. But there are authors. I mean, there's another author who told me, Stephanie, I would rather clean toilets than market a book. That was another epiphany to me, and that came and I made me realize, okay, people will invest in that. So understanding your target reader and your target client, I think, is that phrasing has almost become too common knowledge in marketing that people overlook it because they think they know it, and they don't. It's always evolving. The needs and the challenges of those who are reading our messages or asking for more work from us is evolving, and we need to have open ears to listen.
Right, absolutely, completely agree with that. One major thing with writers is they are. If you speak to 10 writers, out of them 9 will say, "I don't know how to market myself." Right? I don't know how to. I don't know how to promote my writing. So, can you share your tips on marketing and promoting writing effectively?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're exactly right. 9 out of 10 will say that. Okay, the first thing I want to do is I want to break down what the word marketing means, because I think the word marketing is also overused in this world. And and there is a misnomer that marketing is like being an influencer or being the buy this. Did you buy this? You better buy my book, blah, 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 right? I like to take a step back and go, okay, well, marketing is really built of kind of sales content and copy, or sales copy. And then there's inbound marketing content, but there's also engagement, relationship building. And I have found in the long run, the most successful type of marketing is the one that's built on giving value. I say, don't give up, don't give in, don't give way, give value. So marketing, when authors say I don't know how to market or I don't want to market, it's because they're living in a world of what they believe is icky marketing. This is the marketing where you open up your Yahoo email, which I do every morning, and I see all these things I never signed up for, and I'm so overwhelmed that I'm like, who is this? I'm never going to buy it. That's icky. Icky marketing is when you are communicating something to somebody and they never wanted it in the first place. That's not the type of marketing authors need to do. Instead, if you have written a book, it's because you've identified a problem that somebody has and you have a solution to help them. If you don't tell people about it, I really believe you're being selfish. And I hate to go that way, but it's selfish. If you had the cure for cancer, don't you think the world would want to know, right? Like, it's selfish. If you know how to fix something and could help somebody, share it. So we have to get over this feeling like when we talk about something we feel like we know that could help people, that it feels icky. It is only icky if we are communicating it to people who never wanted to know about it. And we're trying to sell something they don't need. I find you don't actually have to sell your book for it to sell when you give value. When you are someone who gives value to people, people go, I want to follow that person. That person can help me. I want to learn from that person. And that is the type of marketing I want authors to do. And that is an easier form of marketing because it just feels like we're just sharing something with a friend. And we are. That's it. A book just happens to be a way they can get it. Coaching programs just happen to be a way if someone wants to go down that path. That's fine. But when you're making sure you're marketing to the people who really need what you bring to the table, then maybe that 9 out of 10 can evolve to, adapt to be in the favor of marketing is the only way, friends, that the right people are going to find your message.
Absolutely. Completely agree with that. Right. You touched upon this about having a website and social media in place, etc. But personal brand is also a very important thing for every entrepreneur, including entrepreneurs right now. So, how do you build a strong personal brand as an entrepreneur?
So, great question. How do you build a strong business brand in connection? So
Yes,
this is a question people ask me regularly because they think that they are their book brand. And I'm like, you're not your book brand. You're bigger than your book. You're much
right,
bigger. Thank
right,
heavens. Physically, you're bigger, but more in life, you're bigger too. So I
right,
always say, take a step back and what is the thread of you, your book, and your business? And there is one, even if it might feel completely polarized.
right,
For me, I thought, well, I was confused at first in my own because we're too close. This is why you have to have like a trusted advisor, a coach, a friend, whatever. I remember stepping back and I'm like, okay, well, I'm helping authors, but I'm writing about this perspective and inspiration. Then it had an aha moment. The thread of all that is me, and I bring perspective to everything. I'm not the one person who's going to tell you you have to do all the things because I don't believe it.
right,
I don't think you have to do all the things. You have to do the right things. And that's
right,
perspective, which is an alignment. So when you're working to build your business brand as an entrepreneur, realize your book is a part of it, but your book is not the only thing. You are bigger than that. Sometimes that means that if your books have a different kind of edge than your business, sometimes that does make sense for you to have different websites. So, I mean, I have a author website, stephaniefeger.com, and then I have the empowerprgroup.com, but they are also connected, meaning, people want to learn more, they are connected. Not everybody has to do that. You don't have to. The only reason I do it is because of the professional speaking that I do that are unique and nuanced to both. But for many authors, it is as you're building your business website, you're integrating your about information into it. You should also be integrating your books into it as well, because your books level up your credibility. You're no longer the person who speaks about it. You're not only the person who has a business about it, you are the person who wrote about it. And that builds trust, and people need to see that. It should be a part of your homepage. It should have its own page on your website if you so desire. And I think it should be something you're really proud of, because it will deepen trust for people to work with you in your business.
absolutely, completely agree with that. Right. Other thing which I want to talk about, which is the negative side of all these things, is the rejection and criticism.
Yeah.
Authors cannot stay away from that, like anybody in this today's world. If there are trolls, there are haters, there are a lot kind of negative influence. So how do you handle the rejection and criticism in your writing business?
Well, not very well. I don't like criticism. No, I do.
That's the
I have,
truth.
yeah, it's the truth. I've learned to thicken my skin because, oddly enough, in our digital world, the trolls out there that just want to hurt people and make people feel like 2 inches tend to show up more online than the people who want to build you up. And I don't like that. I boycott that and go down other routes. But that to being said, yeah, getting comfortable with feedback is a learned skill that not everybody has, but it's something we can all invest into. The thing that I use to combat it, and the thing that I always tell my authors is, there are, last I checked, over 7 billion people in the world, and I don't ever want any book to be something everyone would find that they needed. In fact, it's not possible. If it was, let's say, like, 7 billion people went to buy my book on Amazon, like, Amazon would crash. We don't want that. Or if 7 billion people got on my email list, I would never be able to talk to all of them in the ways where it would really feel like a one-on-one engagement. So
Right.
you don't need that to be successful. Like, I like to step back and ask authors, why did you write the book in the first place? Like, have clarity on what success looks like for you. And just know there are going to be people who your book's not the right fit for. And I've had
Right.
plenty. I got feedback from somebody once. And just know, feedback, a negative perspective from one person could be a positive from another. I had somebody share, oh, well, Stephanie uses a lot of stories in her writing. I wish she would just get to the point. Then on the flip side, I had someone come back and go, because of Stephanie's stories, now when I go out in the world, I remember them, because people remember in stories. So, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? So
Absolutely.
just trust in the fact that you can't meet everybody's needs. But I will say the negative side can also be positive. If you start to hear consistent feedback and there's consistent threads, I'm not saying put up blinders and don't listen to them. pull out that consistency, sit with it, and talk to somebody who is trusted in the industry to be able to help you work through it. Is the consistent thread, the need for brevity? Is it that you need to talk less about you and more about them? Is it that they need more of a punch here, whatever, right? So you can take that feedback and back out of it and go, all right, is this a common thread that makes sense to me? And in the beginning, I find that it's hard to have a rational brain around that because your heart and soul live on pages that the world will
Right.
be ingesting and digesting and loving or hating. Right.
Right.
And so
Right.
it is a thick skin process to learn, but it's also to know when to listen and when to not. And then, I really do find for me, I have a handful of trusted people that work in the industry. And if there's something that I'm like, oh, then I will call them up and say, is this something I could do better at? And sometimes they will go, yeah, you could. I'm like, all right, I'll work on that. Other times they're like, no, that makes no sense. Ignore it. I'm like, great. And so, you might sometimes need to have kind of that pulse check. The other thing to keep in mind is if you are in the beginning phase of writing your book and it's not published yet, I do encourage you to do like an editorial board and get a handful of people who are your target readers to review your book before it comes out so they can let you know where the gaps are. That is also challenging feedback to get, but you can get it in a way that is early enough in the process that you can make changes to it.
Got it. Yeah, that should work perfectly. Right. Other thing which I want to talk about collaboration, right? So how can it's being a writer or being an entrepreneur today, you cannot do everything by yourself, right?
Yeah.
So how can writers collaborate with other creatives and businesses to grow the brand?
You've got such great questions here. Okay, so I love this one. It's actually a part of the marketing approach that I encourage authors to do. And I like to say that you're right. Nobody can do something alone. I've tried for a long time and it doesn't work. So don't do it. It's just literally not possible. And
Right.
to be honest, the more people and the more heads that come together, the better the outcome. So just like for your book, you would bring an editor, maybe a proofreader, an editorial team, layout, cover design together to make a product really strong. When the book comes out, you will need to do that as well to make sure that the book gets to the right place or that it
Right.
impacts the right people. That doesn't always mean that you have to invest in help, although help is there to move forward. Sometimes that means doing what I like to call collaborations with complementary service providers. So I encourage authors to understand their audience and then consider where are their readers 1 or 2 steps before they need them. Where are they at?
Right.
Who do they go to for trusted information? Where are they asking questions? What problems do they have? Who's serving them at that point? That right there could be very indicative of a collaboration that you could create. For my first book, one of the biggest months of book sales happened about a year after the book came out, and I collaborated with a dietitian and exercise coach. And my book was about mental mindset work, and she was focused on physical and body care. And we didn't require anybody to invest in either of us. We just did a month-long collaboration, and my book was amazingly sold. Her business grew because we were just giving, and we realized for her, people might get stagnant in their body care needs because of their mindset. And for me, the people who follow me and get their mindset in place, then they were ready to take care of other parts of themselves to be healthy. So it was like a win-win. And I found that is a beautiful way where you can be a solution to another person's problem, and it will help both people in the process.
Right.
And so that is, I say don't get hung up on the fact that you can't share because you could. Even amongst the author space, there's a dear friend of mine that we talk regularly, and she's an author as well. And she said something one day and it hit me. She writes a lot more. She writes a lot of fiction. And she said, Stephanie, there is not enough fiction I'll ever be able to write for the number of people who want to consume fiction. So how can I collaborate with other fiction authors where we can support one another, leverage one another's platforms to spread the word about great books in genres that people want to know about? And I was like, you're so right. So I guess it's this mindset of abundance. There's enough. And
Right.
if you are willing to allow other people either in to help you build your business or in to help you grow your business and your work, that is game changing. The other last point that I wanted to make a note of is I've learned a lot as an entrepreneur about myself and what gives me energy and what drains me. And I'll never forget the day that I met one of the lovely ladies that's on my team now. And when I was interviewing her, I'd asked her some questions about things that she liked to do. And when she was telling me the answers, I'm like, "You don't like to do that. You're lying." Like, and she's no. And so actually just this morning we were talking about some of the stuff that I have coming up. And she's like, "I don't like doing that." I'm like, "Sure you do." She's like, "No." And so you realize that we're not all made the same. And that's a beautiful part of life, that there are people who love doing what you don't, or what you're not strong at, or what, even if you're good at it, can suck the energy out of you. And so
Right.
you can get farther if you focus on the things that are uniquely you, and allow other people to focus on the things that are uniquely them, and together you will succeed. There's enough room.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's enough room. Yeah, absolutely. Right. So let me just this is a very open question. I don't know how you are going to pick it up, but can you share some success stories of successful entrepreneurs? It can be your
Oh.
clients, you yourself, your story, or any other entrepreneur you are proud of or you look up to.
Okay. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. All right. So there's several. Um, and I'll tell you, okay, so I've got two authorpreneurs that I follow, and I every time somebody asks me, I throw their names out in hopes that one day they will hear and they will help me schedule time to meet them. They're my two favorite authors on the planet. Jodi Picoult and Mitch Albom are my two favorite favorite fiction authors. Even though I write in the nonfiction space, I love, love, love fiction. Jodi writes about social issues that are happening that could be very polarizing in the world. And she attacks those topics with beauty and grace in a way that, what I like to say, what books, she's to me living proof of the fact that books can break down walls and build bridges, that it allows information that maybe somebody might not be open to hearing. Shatter and like shake a foundation of somebody in a place where they're able to do it by themselves in their own pace. And I think that's a way that that's the way the world is going to change. That we're
Right.
not out
Right.
yelling at each other, but that we're allowing information to come. I'll never forget the day I picked up one of her books that I loved the cover. When you fall in love with an author, I don't really care what she writes about. I'm going to love everything. But I love the cover. That's why I bought it. And I opened it. I'm like, I did not want to talk about this topic. This was not going to be my favorite topic at all. And it's something that I have really strong feelings on. But if I get a book, I'm reading it I'm going to read it. And I trusted her. I read the book cover to cover. I don't know that it changed like how I see something, but it did change how I see people. And it did open my eyes to see things in a different way. And I actually reached out to her. I had never done this before outside of like authors I know or I get to work with. I emailed her and I told her, what how amazing she is and what she did and how I was so grateful for it. And she wrote back and we had
Oh,
like a little conversation about how what she's doing isn't easy, but is needed and it's beautiful. So I look at her and she has literally built her business on books, right? So she does speaking and books, book writing, but she has used her gift for good. She has used her gift to unite, not divide. She has used her gift to go deep in topics that everyone else is uncomfortable talking about, but she does it in a way where nobody feels alienated. Nobody walks away with thinking that one way is right or wrong. Everybody feels seen at the table, and I think that's important. And I think Mitch does the same thing. So those two are authors that I don't know directly, but I definitely look up to. There are several authors that I have had the chance to work with that I just am in awe and inspired by. And I think when I take a step back and see what's the thread behind them, what I uncover is that behind every perceived successful business is a entrepreneur who is dog paddling, trying to figure it out, right? Like trying to learn and grow. And it's the ones that are keep their head above water are the ones that are open to getting feedback and learning along the way. They are willing to adjust and adapt. They are open to trying something, and if it doesn't work, learning from it and doing and failing forward. Right? They're every step is a step moving forward because they have something bigger that the world needs. And beyond that, it's also these authors who have taken this leap of faith to share a message that they didn't really know where it was going to go, only to then go, oh my gosh, there are all these people that are, oh my gosh, I get to do even more than what I thought. Like, thank you for this opportunity. I mean, and I don't, whatever God you call to, Mother Nature, whoever, right? Like, thank you to a greater spirit, that our maker, to be able to give a gift that allows people to reach people. It is such a blessing to watch that, but really the humility behind it all is understanding that we are all people just wanting to do good and make a difference and leave an impact. And the ones that do are the ones that are open to that pesky, uncomfortable feedback and learning from it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Such a beautiful answer to that question. Thank you so much for that. Right. So my final question on this topic, before I ask you a personal question,
Sure.
which I ask every guest, final question on the topic is: what are your top advice to aspiring entrepreneurs who want to turn their passion into a thriving business?
Okay. Can I give two pieces if they go together?
Absolutely,
Okay, two pieces.
absolutely.
Okay, first piece of advice is if you want to be an author, and if you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to be an author first. That's how that goes. Or you're a business owner that you pull writing in. So either way, you have to have the author side of it integrated. And if that is something you want to do, my biggest piece of advice is to start writing. Like, I know it sounds so simple, but it is to start writing. If you won't identify your writer's voice, your author's voice, until you write. And the more you write, the better you'll get at it. Like, you opened our chat today about my LinkedIn posts and such. Like, I was not confident or comfortable doing that years ago. But the more you do it, the easier it comes, and the more you can find a differentiator. Many people feel like they have a story, but maybe their story isn't as unique as they'd like it to be, like what makes them different. And I'm like, you are the difference, but you have to get that writer's voice. Okay. The biggest piece of advice, if you want to be an entrepreneur, though, to me, goes to what I call draft 1 and draft 2 of the writing process. And that's the same thing in business. When authors are writing their books and then they come to me and they want to learn to see if it's marketable, I always read the book to determine what phase are we living in. Are we living in draft 1 of the book or draft 2? And there's many drafts of the book. So I don't actually mean it in the way that an editor might. What I mean it is draft 1, authors write books for them. Like, it's the catharsis. It's they need to get it out. Draft 2 is the pivot from it's not about you, it's for somebody else. And so when you look at, and those are the books that are marketable. Those are the ones that sell. Those are the ones that make an impact, right? How can you use what you've gone through to help somebody else? And I feel the most successful entrepreneurs are the ones that say, I'm not just in it for the paycheck, right? Like, that's great. You can get there, but you've created a business because of draft 2. You are doing something because have a solution for another person's problem. How do you take what you love and you care about and care more about the other person in the process? Those businesses thrive.
Right, right. Absolutely. Fantastic advice there for all the authors who
Yeah.
are yet to become authors, actually.
Yeah.
All right. So, my final question is always reserved about my guest, their life, their work, etc., etc. So, my question today is about Empower PR Group, right? By Destiny, you arrived at it. You help nonfiction writers, authors, entrepreneurs in multiple ways. Can you talk a little bit about the work you do, and why should aspiring authors, should take a closer look at your team?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, when I started with my first book and it came out, I started to realize what I really wanted is just knowledge. Said, how could I learn? And then when authors started coming and saying, how do you market a book? I started to go, okay, well, they need knowledge too. And the business, the Empower PR Group, was built on a concept of empowerment. I never have wanted an author to live in the marketing space where they felt like they didn't know anything and they were blindly investing or blindly following, which which is something that you find in marketing, right? I mean, it can be
Right.
complicated. People don't know where to go. So the Empower PR group is literally built on empowerment based on wherever an author or authorpreneur is. So I've come to learn that there are the DIYers, the ones that want to do it themselves. So the ones that want it done with you or done for you or done alongside you. And that's okay. So we've built the Empower PR group to have the fluidity to support authors however they are and wherever they are. We really focus on 3 cornerstones of what is a part of our framework, and that's to ensure that you have a marketable book. Without a marketable book, the book won't sell. And that's that concept of draft 1 to draft 2. Then we will help authors sell books, whether that is from a book launch or on relaunch or anywhere in between. And then we help authors with their authorpreneur business because unfortunately, most books will not be the basis of an entire life career by themselves. The books are amazing, but we live in a crowded space of books. Just look on Amazon. There's a gazillion. And so how can you use the book to build or grow your business alongside? So through our strategy sessions, our VIP days intensives, through our workshops, through our publishing support, through our website development, everything in between, graphic design, media, whatever, right? Over the years, I've been collecting amazing humans who do amazing work. And together we help amazing authors with exactly what they need. And it's never, it's not cookie cutter. It's never the same because every author has unique needs. And I always share, I like to know what your goals are. And then I like to know, from the author's perspective, what do they have the time and energy and interest in investing in? And that's beautiful. That's a beautiful knowledge piece around social media. That's why I say I'm not going to help you do all social because when you stop at working with us, you'll do none, right? And so the secret sauce, I'll leave you with this. The secret sauce of marketing is consistency. It is consistency. How it's showing up. How do you show up? So we help authors figure out that cadence, pace, and consistency. And if they want to learn it and run, then we're coaching and cheerleading and supporting on the sidelines. If they have no energy and execution, that's fine. We can help them with that too. And so we've built our work around helping authors make an impact.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people who have already benefited, and there are a lot of authors who are going to benefit from your team's help and work. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so much for taking time out and coming on as a guest. I really love the show. I'm going to post it on my YouTube channel tomorrow, and I'm pretty sure I'll watch it myself because I myself want to write a book someday. So
you've got this. Oh, in my latest book, I have a chapter, and it's like, your one day is today. Your someday, let's your someday be today.
Wow, so powerful. I'll get a copy of that for sure and I'll read it. Awesome. And thank you so much. And I'll speak to you soon.
Sounds great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right. So that was Stephanie. She has helped a lot of people publish non-fiction books. And check out empowerprgroup.com. You will get a lot of inputs, lot of insights on how to become a published author. Right, so that is episode 63 of the Thrifty Marketer Talks. I have 2 things to share before I log off for the day. Number 1, Jay Akunzo, if you know him, he's one of my favorite marketers in the world, favorite storytellers in the world. He might be coming on my show, so I am super pumped about it. Number 2, I have one another guest. This show has got me introduced to so many amazing people across the globe whom I have never met, but who have been pouring in kindness into my life. Like, for example, one of my guests, she's a voiceover artist for over 2 decades. I invited her, she's coming on the show in the month of April. She looked at my podcast interviews and she said she took time out to recommend me a new mic for my studio. She said, you need to improve your mic. And she also recorded a new intro and outro for my podcast. How cool is that? Right? So I am so kind and grateful for people like this. That's why I run this show. I love these guests. I love these conversations. So do tune in every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. IST or 10 a.m. EST. I will be back soon with another episode of the Thrifty Marketing Talks. Take care.